We have one more exciting session to go, and that's for me at first is going to be a service design award for the best commercial project. It's going to be presented by Richard Whitehall, the partner of Smart Design for, I looked it up on LinkedIn, already 19 years. Congratulations, Richard, and please do share more about the project.
Thank you very much. Let me get my slides up and then okay. So first of all, I just wanted to say thank you to our amazing partner on this project, Amplifon, who we worked with over a couple of years in 2017 and 2018 on this project. And then also just wanted to thank the Service Design Network and the service design community for the honor of receiving an award. I mean, I spoke at the Service Design Network conference in New York in 2015, and I've got to say I was really impressed by the thoroughness of the judging and the award winners. So it's a great honor really to be recognized by Service Design Network. So let me just give you a little bit of background on myself. So this is my bookshelf that I've been looking at every day for the last year or so. And I think it gives you a little kind of peek into my life. I think some of the things I'm really interested in are inclusive design, which is very much at the core of what Smart Design does. I work on a lot of projects that have a futures aspect, and we're thinking about sort of broader trends and society. And then in terms of sectors, I work a lot in the technology, healthcare, and the home as kind of areas of focus. However, next year we are moving into a physical space, which is very exciting. So we're going to be moving into the Brooklyn Navy Yards. This is a building where they used to build wooden boats, and it's going to be an awesome space for service prototyping and all the different things that we do. So very excited to be back in person. Overall, this just sort of sums up the like philosophy of Smart Design and what we do. Really, we're kind of focused on helping everyday people, whoever they are, in their lives and in their work. And we work with a lot of ambitious organizations, really always trying to uncover new possibilities and help turn those into reality. In terms of the things we do, I think it can be confusing, I think especially for kind of clients to sort of figure out what kind of different agencies do. So just in really simple terms, you know, we design physical products. So we do have a heritage in that, and digital products and UX. Most of the things we design now are sort of connected and there are services around them. So service design is really core to our kind of practice. And then we're kind of thinking about the sort of broader systems and the business ecosystems that surround some of these things. So let me start talking about the work with Amplifon. So for those of you who don't know, Amplifon is the kind of global leader in hearing health. They have about 11,000 stores across 28 different countries, focused primarily in Europe and in the EU. And when we started working with them, they've been consistently growing organically over a number of years. And a lot of that growth had been through acquisition. And really, they kind of came to us to look at customer experience as a driver of future growth of the organization. So making sure that they were going to maintain their kind of position in the market. And they had I think because they'd grown by acquisition, they had a network of different brands and stores. Some of their stores were kind of corporate owned, and some of them were actually owned by franchisees, some of them who might have owned up to 50 stores. So the actual business ecosystem of Amplifon is quite complex in itself. And really this kind of project was really about pulling all those things together into a more consistent and impactful customer experience. So just a few things about hearing loss. I am in my 50s, so I'm on this chart sort of on the left here, but about 15% of the adult population overall has some level of hearing loss, and it generally takes people a long time to kind of recognize that. One of the things you'll see on the graphs is that hearing loss kind of varies by frequency. So as we get older, we kind of tend to lose more hearing in the higher frequencies, and we hear, you know, some of the lower frequencies still well. But you'll see there is a lot of kind of loss around the frequencies where the human voice peaks. So this is something which is an issue for like many of us as we age. One of the sort of challenges that we were trying to solve on the project was it takes the average person, 7 years to when they start realizing there's some type of hearing loss to actually getting a hearing aid and like support. And this is really dangerous because I think especially as people get older, hearing loss can lead to isolation. And there's this statistic about the impact of hearing loss on dementia, and it can be a really significant kind of factor in that whole sort of aging process. I think another challenge is, I'm in my 50s, so this is what hearing aids looked like in the 1980s. So I think a lot of people have perceptions of hearing aids that are quite outdated, and you think of the kind of whistles that hearing aids make and the feedback, and then just this idea as well that the actual way that they amplified wasn't very sophisticated then, and now that they've really come a long way in terms of like performance and kind of size, but still this kind of perception and stigma really exists. We started our process working with customers, employees, and franchisees. I think, as I mentioned, there are franchisees who actually operate significant businesses within the kind of network. So really this kind of process was about understanding, what's happening on the ground level in the stores, what were audiologists kind of looking for in their kind of practice, what was happening front of house, what was the customer experience in the store, but also what was happening beyond the store. And then looking at some of the kind of systems and the back end that franchisees and the corporate practices were kind of using, and understanding this kind of very complex sort of ecosystem across all these different markets. So I'd say there was a lot of complexity to kind of boil down, and a lot of quite kind of emotional moments in these journeys that kind of customers were going through. So I just want to highlight just a few of the sort of key insights that we found in our research. I think the kind of first one is just really there were a lot of misconceptions about hearing aids themselves, which were preventing people engaging in the brand in the first place. And to kind of add to that, what Amplifon was offering was a product, but actually there's a service wrapped around it. So the kind of hearing aid testing, the support, all the things you need to do to acclimatize to a hearing aid were things that were baked into a product cost. So people were paying a lot for what they perceived as a product, but actually they were kind of receiving a lot of service benefit around it. In the experience, I think expectations were not set well for kind of customers. So when you get a pair of glasses, you put them on and suddenly you can see, and it's kind of a fairly miraculous thing. With a hearing aid, it's not like that. Your brain actually has to adapt to using a hearing aid over time. So when you first get this great new hearing aid, the experience may not be that good for like 6 months until you get used to it. This second insight was just about really the kind of amount of information that customers were being fed in the experience. And a lot of these service interactions were happening in the store. People had to learn a lot of information about hearing loss, coming to the realization that they had hearing loss, and then sort of being rushed into a really important decision with a lot of money behind it. So that whole kind of process was kind of very rushed, and we thought there was an opportunity really to give people more information over time and make this a less stressful moment in the experience. So in terms of the kind of value, this is the point about really the kind of service being baked into the product cost. But I think over time, after customers became acclimatized to wearing a hearing aid, really the kind of service experience wasn't offering anything over time. So that kind of relationship wasn't really kind of growing as people had a hearing aid for a year or kind of 2 years. So there was a whole opportunity around, loyalty. We also found that just, people with hearing loss are not one big group. There are people that have different attitudes in terms of their kind of learning style and their needs for support. So offering kind of personalization in this experience, both in terms of like customer type, but I think also in terms of where they are on the journey, was a really important opportunity. And then overall, customers had a really great relationship with their individual audiologist, but when you looked sort of beyond that, there was inconsistency across how they would then interact with a call center or in the broader store experience. So kind of trying to bring all the assets that they had with the people in the stores, but kind of connecting that to customers' experience more broadly. So working with Amplifon's kind of team overall, we identified 5 innovation streams, which were, key things in really bringing the customer experience together and also building a capability within Amplifon to kind of push these things through. So the first one was really like reframing the value occasion. So thinking about the way that products were kind of priced and the whole kind of business model around hearing aids, and could we move to a model that was more highlighting the service rather than the product. We did a lot of work around the audiological protocol. So having a protocol that was more based around people's individual needs, but then also scaling that so that people could do audiological testing online before they came to the store. So really kind of taking all that expertise and scaling it across digital channels. We looked at the actual product experience and how people understood products. Hearing aids are weird things to kind of look at and understand. So trying to make that more transparent and more engaging, actually, what they do. Thinking about the loyalty framework and what happens after sort of 1 year and 3 years in the experience, and then looking at the specifics of the store experience and how the different service interactions happen in that context. Overall, we were helping Amplifon move from being a product-focused company to thinking about delivering a service that would really help people through all the different stages of hearing loss, and finding a product and then using that product over time. We developed a kind of vision that would really help engage people within the kind of corporate organization, but I think especially franchisees who needed to really be inspired to adopt some of these new kind of practices. So in terms of physical things, we were looking at the product and the packaging system, but also looking at different formats of kind of stores and how those would kind of deliver some of the things that were most important in the service experience. And then on the digital side, we kind of addressed a number of different touch points, but I think especially thinking about the audiological testing protocol in a store and how that would kind of work in a kind of office environment with a customer. But then also thinking about the kind of app that's connected to the hearing aid, and what are the different things we could offer over time in terms of making recommendations with usage data and going through that training process that kind of happens at the beginning of the journey. We created a toolkit which kind of really helped to cement some of the principles, but I think also kind of offering very kind of tactical things that could be implemented, and building these into streams of work that could be implemented within the organization. Overall, the kind of impact of the program, I think the kind of some of the things that I'm most like proud of on this project were that we actually managed to increase adherence to hearing aids. So we could actually track this and see that people were using hearing aids 7 hours a day, which has increased usage. So people were actually getting more benefit from their product. We found that customers were choosing Amplifon hearing aids over other brands within the stores. So again, that was kind of a positive thing in terms of the way we were communicating the kind of products and the benefits. And then there was a lot of positive feedback from like store employees in terms of adopting some of these different service points. And then just generally, Amplifon has continued growing, and really stock performance has been really good. So that's a good indicator of the organization-wide sort of impact of this program. So there is a great case study on our website. So I think if you want to understand a little bit more about the project and see some of the artifacts, that's a great place to go. I'd also point you to a great project that we did with an organization called Upstream, which is also in the healthcare space, but looking at birth control training within clinics in the US. So I think that's a good sort of similar case study if you guys want to get a sense of some of the other things that we do. So that's it. I thought I would keep the presentation brief. I know there's kind of a lot going on today, but I just wanted to say that, you know, like everybody else, we are growing our kind of team. We're sort of building out a space, but I think the most important thing is we're kind of trying to find key people. So do take a look at the website, and there are some like job ads there. So thank you very much, and I'll hand it back to Mark.
And here's Mark back. Thank you, Richard. Great to see this presentation, and I encourage everybody to check out the website for more. And if you're looking for service design talent, I know a platform which might be interesting for you as well to check out, but more on that later.